How in detail and graphic women talk about sex. Most guys I know, even casual acquaintances, don't talk that deeply about sex. They got laid, it was good, or it wasn't. If it was something casual, the most you might get is her head game was awesome or something like that. But my female friends talk about men's sizes, positions, how long they lasted, and all kinds of stuff. Story 1. Women are much better at maintaining long-distance friendships. Most of my friends from high school I still talk to are women because they make an effort to reach out. There's also something unusual about calling your friend just to talk. But women don't think twice about it. Story 2. Male friends will at most say, "I was with this woman," while a female friend tells stories about sexual encounters that the guys definitely wouldn't want spread. I have to be a bit more filtered around female friends. Female friends ask if I'm okay much more often, even when the answer is always yes. Female friends are much touchier. Story 3. I've always said women talk about men the way they think men talk about women. It's extremely off-putting. Story 4. My women friends always want to talk about what is going on in our lives. My men friends prefer to talk about anything other than our lives. Story 5. I don't have as many female friends as I used to when I was in my teens or early 20s, but I work with more women than men. When an attractive woman comes into our office, the men obviously notice but don't openly talk about it. Women, on the other hand, openly stare at an attractive man and make comments with each other about how attractive he is. Story 6. I have male and female friends. Talking with men, sexual experiences rarely come up. When it comes to talking about women, it's the least discussed topic among men. When I'm with female friends, whether my own or my wife's, the majority of the conversation is about men and relationships. I've been asked everything under the sun about sex with women by women. As for my male friends, I've never given the same amount of detail nor have I been asked for it. Story 7. I would want to sleep with all my female friends if given the chance. I would only want to sleep with some of my male friends if given the chance. Story 8. My female friends will sometimes get flirty and even handsy, especially if they're freshly out of a relationship. My male friends won't. When I was younger, my male friends and acquaintances might talk a little about sex and girls they found attractive. These days, we mostly talk about finance, investing, training, food, parenting, and life goals. My female friends talk almost exclusively about relationships, both theirs and others, as well as sex and crushes. Story 9. I don't have friends, unfortunately, but I've realized that women are far more detailed about sex. Most guys will give very basic information, like saying she's attractive and mentioning a few actions. However, my female coworkers are quite open. I'll be in the break room, and they'll be sitting next to me, discussing their sex lives with their husbands. They talk about details like size, positions, and duration, even falling asleep afterward. I know way too much about their husbands in bed, which I really don't want to know. Story 10. Main difference. I never hear from my female friends unless 1. I message them first to check in and ask how they are doing, or 2. They need something from me that benefits them. With guy friends, we chat and joke randomly and sometimes meet up. Sometimes I message first, sometimes they do. I've stopped messaging my female friends. Now I focus my energies on my guy buddies. Less drama anyway. Story 11. My female friendships tend to be more intimate in person with more casual touching, but besides that, they are pretty much the same. There is no discussion of sex, just showing each other support and care. Story 12. I'm the only guy in my department. They go into detail about their sex lives and bodily functions. My male friends usually may have one mention like, "Oh, that was good," and then move on to talking about sports, entertainment, or whatever else. But it's hardly ever long conversations about our sex lives. Story 13. Yeah, they shame guys a lot too. A female friend sent me a TikTok of her dancing to a voicemail a guy left her. He was just trying to communicate and see where their relationship was going. She mocked him and posted it on TikTok. Story 14. Can definitely vouch for that as well. Some of the deepest sexual conversations I've had have been with my female friends. If they're comfortable enough and you don't make it awkward, they'll share just about every detail. Guys definitely keep it short, which is pretty funny when you think about it. Story 15. This is a personality thing, not a gender thing. None of my female friends have ever discussed intimate details of our partners or graphic stuff. We just don't. Personally, I don't want to hear that about them and assume they don't want to hear it about me. When I have heard superficial acquaintances, my actual friends would never begin to talk about their raunchy sex lives. I've shut it down quickly by changing the subject or raising my eyebrows and looking away. It seems very disrespectful to me. I'm huge on privacy and would be appalled to find out someone was discussing me like that. Story 16, trans guy here. I've had the strange and rare privilege of being part of both all-male and all-female friend groups. Some things I've noticed. First of all, we talk about sex around the same amount. Maybe guys talk about it with each other a little more than girls among themselves. But that's mostly a learned social thing. To the guys who say girls talk about sex more, they talk about it a lot with you because it's more socially acceptable for guys to be open about it, so they are more relaxed with you than with their female friends. However, the level of interest is about the same. Another thing, and this is the main thing that baffled me, men are more okay with silence. Women are expected to fill the silence with chatter, but ironically, when a man starts speaking, they're expected to be quiet. So when a couple of women sit there not saying anything, they are often upset with each other. But when a couple of guys sit in silence, they're just having a good time. Another observation: risky behaviors are encouraged in all male spaces. If you want to do something stupid or dangerous, like climb a wall or throw a rock, fellow guys are like, hell yeah, dude. Meanwhile, women are taught from a young age not to do that. So even if one of them tries doing it, the others will look at her oddly. Another thing, talking about feelings is about the same, but girls will open up more easily than guys. A woman can casually mention a bad breakup to an acquaintance, but for a man, you have to be one of the closest people in his life to hear that. I can try to think of more. Story 17. I don't know what you guys do that makes women talk so much about sex, but in my experience, men talk way more about sex. They don't give details, but they say they are horny and want to engage in intimate activities and comment on attractive women. Women never say anything of the like. Only recently, one of my best friends talked to me about her sex life since I asked her something about it. The main difference I notice in friendships is that with women, there is much more emotional depth, while with men, there is unspoken loyalty. My male friends and I know we are good friends, and even if I don't see them for a long time, we will be there for each other. Not to talk, but mainly to do something together like gaming, going out, or engaging in activities. My female friends and I make it explicit that we are good friends by giving gifts, compliments, and verbal support. We spend most of our time together talking, not doing, and the conversations go way deeper. I feel more emotionally invested in my female friendships than my male friendships. I do feel more loyalty towards my male friends than towards my female friends. Story 18. Neither of them talk about sex. My female friends ask and talk about relationships, how parents are doing, siblings, nieces and nephews, mutual friends, health, goals, and more. The conversations are more in-depth. With guy friends, we just do things like drink, work out, watch movies and baseball games, grill, make jokes, and talk about our jobs and pop culture. Conversations are surface level and we just blow off steam. Story 19. I have observed a distinct difference between my male and female friendships in terms of conversation dynamics. With my male friends, our discussions usually revolve around shared activities, interests, and casual banter. On the other hand, my female friends often engage in more open dialogues about personal experiences, emotions, and deeper subjects. Each type of friendship brings its own unique value, providing diverse perspectives and various forms of support. Story 20. In my experience, as I no longer have female friends but have in the past, male friends seem to genuinely enjoy your company and want you around. In contrast, female friends often keep you around more for convenience and what you can do for them. Yes, I recognize that the female friends I've had in the past weren't the best, but I've heard about similar experiences from other men, so I know it's not just that. Also, it's a lot easier and more fun to banter with men than with women. Women generally get offended more easily and are more sensitive, making it feel like you have to walk on eggshells when it comes to this type of interaction. Story 21. My friendships with men are generally more liberal. In none of these friendships is there any implicit tone policing. minefield topics, need for restriction, or sugarcoating in speech. We just relax. However, such things exist in many of my friendships with women. There are topics I avoid purely because I can't be bothered to find myself in a heated argument over something on which I don't even have a strong opinion. I often find myself having to really consider how I phrase things, beyond my already high level of consideration, to the point of softening my words, which can get annoying. That's one difference anyway. My friendships generally overlap otherwise. Story 22. This is such a weird thing. My friends and I have never gone into a detailed level of discussion. I know some girls do, but those of us who don't are also uncomfortable. Story 23. How much more in-depth and healing conversations with females can be. Much more to learn and therapeutic almost. With males, it seems very surface level. Story 24. There remains the possibility of sex with 99% of my female friends. We even joke about it. I'm old enough to know better now, but there was a time. Story 25. Not much difference for me. Although I can't say to a female friend, "Hey, you know that feeling when your balls stick to your leg?" Story 26. Friends? What are those? I have coworkers and parents I spend time with from my kids' school. Not much time for anything else. I'm not talking about anything like that with either group. Story 27. A male friend once organized a guy hangout day. He sent some voicemails and received immediate responses about availability. A female friend noticed this and was impressed by how easy it was because organizing something with women is apparently more complicated. Story 28. Well, usually when I'm friends with a guy, he's a guy, and usually when I'm friends with a woman, she's a woman. On a slightly more serious note, I can't really make the same jokes I usually make with my male friends. Mostly because they're sometimes rather sexual, and if I tell them to my female friends, the result is either they get creeped out, the situation becomes a bit awkward, or they get turned on by it, which is not a bad problem to have, but I'm not ready for a relationship. Story 29. I can be as real as possible with my male friends, but need to dial it back with my female friends. For example, I don't hesitate to call out my male friends for doing something extremely foolish, but if my female friend did something equally foolish, I have to be careful how I call her out. Story 30. I'm going to only take into account my close friends. My close female friends I communicate with more often, for the most part, whereas my close male friends I talk to less frequently, but we have deeper conversations. Not to say I don't have deep conversations with my female friends. But with my 3 close male friends, we've covered topics ranging from concerns about being a bad father, insecurities about physical appearance, and doubts about love. These are things I wouldn't want anyone else to know, so I only discuss them with those 3. I'll also say my female friends are more attuned to moods and vibes. For example, if I'm suffering from male insecurity and it's impacting my mood, they might not know what's happening, but they sense something is off. So they'll just send food, coffee, or a random cute video. Story 31. The women tend to be more emotionally in tune with themselves. For example, when I'm relaxing with the girls versus the guys and we start chatting about life, the girls are more likely to be forward in their questions and answers, allowing for more heartfelt dialogue. The guys still get into the details, but certain ideas or emotions may be brushed over or passed entirely. Things keep moving. I love them both. Story 32. Women don't ever seem to have a set goal in mind when it comes to conversations or activities. Men don't really empathize all too well. Women are fun. Men are chill. Story 33. Female friendships are very fragile. I've noticed that women often struggle with genuine criticism and tend to take things personally, which leads to them tolerating bad behavior. My friends and I insult each other daily, and no one gets upset. You better hit the gym if you actually want to get laid, idiot. I sincerely doubt female friendships can survive one joke about weight. Story 34. Usually, the most detail we discuss is how attractive she was, if something hilarious happened, or if she did something so unusual we had to tell someone. It's a pretty rare topic in general, though. How did your date with her go last night? It was great, man. She was amazing. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. Then the subject changes. Story 35. I just feel more comfortable being my true self around guy friends and sharing things I wouldn't share with women. I find them much less judgmental, and there's a lot of mutual understanding from being the same gender. It's the opposite of walking on eggshells. They deal with their problems on their own, and there's no drama. There's also teasing, competitiveness, and sensation-seeking. For my closest friends, it's shocking how many personal details I don't know, while understanding them better than anyone else. Guys break the tension with humor when things start to get too serious. The bonding is shoulder to shoulder about being on the same page. Wingmaning for each other was my favorite part when I was single. It's great when you can anticipate how the other will react and know how to talk the other guy up or give him a chance to look cooler. A good wingman can help escalate things with no risk. I remember one time my best guy friend came up to me when I was talking to a girl at a bar and just pressed our heads together and said, "You all need to make out." It worked out well. With women, it's more about finding emotional connections and caring for each other. They appreciate feeling understood and cared for and reciprocate. I like having serious talks, but sometimes it feels like a mutual therapy session that needs a joke to bring levity. I share a lot of personal stuff with my close guy friends, but never with more distant guy friends. Women reach that personal level quickly. You do have to worry about not hurting their feelings or offending them, but they also appreciate when guys aren't careful and say wild things. Story 36. Yeah, women do talk a lot of detail. This girl I worked with told her friends loads of details about her husband. I knew he was 7 inches big. I knew if she left him more than 5 days, he lasted around 2 to 3 minutes. But if they had it the next day, he would last around 20. His spunk tasted like chlorine. He was allowed anal on his birthday, and he enjoys it when she bosses him around. He once wanted her to pee on him, but she drew the line and went in a mood. I never met the man, but I knew a lot about how good he was in bed. Story 37. Had the same friend group for 15 years now, and we've never gotten each other a birthday present. I won't even remember to wish them a happy birthday unless we're planning on hanging out that day or for the occasion. Women whom I'm barely friends with have gotten me small birthday presents or at least usually wished me a happy birthday. Story 38. I'm with a group of single guys that often go out to meet girls. We discuss if there are any cute girls at the club and if the ratio of men to women is favorable. We hardly talk about explicit details. We might mention if someone has a cute face or nice features. Nothing deep or graphic, as that would be inappropriate or come off as bragging. I know some guys who do that, but I'm not one to associate with those types. For women, I don't discuss these topics with my female friends. I was in a Facebook group, and I was surprised at how openly some girls talked about certain subjects. One mentioned she had just returned from a date. Another girl asked, "Is he rich?" Once, a woman shared that she had been dating a guy for over 6 months and planned to give it another 6 months before deciding on a more intimate relationship. I didn't want to hear that, and I think the guy should have some self-respect. Story 39. This ultimately depends on the person's personality. I found both straight and flirtatious people from both sexes. I'm very selective in who I keep as friends. I don't trust people. Story 40. Guys will listen and say, "That's rough, buddy." The typical response is to distract by doing something fun together. Female friends want more details and tend to talk about the pros and cons more. There tends to be a feeling of being judged more. Story 41. With female friends, I have to act like a toned-down version of myself. With male friends, I can just be myself. Story 42. My male friendships are low maintenance. They don't require much from me aside from enjoyable company. We don't need to know everything about each other. As long as we are happy spending time together, what else is there to ask for? I find women have more unsaid wants and expectations than guys do, which frustrates them when I don't understand the message. This might be why they don't prefer me as a friend unless they hope that by being in my orbit, I might choose them. This has been confessed to me more than a couple of times after they gave up. Story 43. I've been with my current friend group for over a decade now. We've never once talked about sex. We might mention, "Oh, an actress is attractive," or "I've always been into a certain kind of women. We're all married, so I guess we're boring." With my close female friends, and I have a couple, we tend to talk more about parenthood, work, family, and TV or video games. Sometimes we'll vent about mental health issues, as that's a lot of what we've bonded over. Story 44. I can joke around and make fun of my guy friends, and they won't get offended. However, if I were to do it with my female friends, they would get offended easily and not understand that I'm just joking. Story 45. Personally, I only have one close female friend, and the only thing we don't discuss is sex. This is because she is dating my best friend, so I'd rather not know the details of either of their sex lives. Besides that, she is considered one of the group. Before she started dating my friend, we would talk about everything and anything. Story 46. I wish it were true that men don't sexualize women or talk about sex. You must have some decent male friends. I was a virgin when I met my ex. The way he described our sex life, I might as well have been a porn star. All lies to make him look good. Story 47. Really weird thing I noticed today. My female friends and I don't joke about having sex with each other, especially at inappropriate times. There is a number larger than 10 of my male friends and I that have publicly humped each other. Story 48. Women friends often want to know everything in your life. Men, on the other hand, just chat, talk about whatever, and engage in general banter. Story 49. Females usually have a significant falling out with friends and let it fester, while my male friends and I just drift apart slowly. Story 50. One of my guy friends reaches out when he's on his way home from work overseas about every 10 to 12 weeks to see if we can have a quick coffee. I see and hear from him more than my female friends. Story 51. With my guy friends, I trust them with my life. There has always been an assumption of equality and respect between us from the moment we met, and we've never breached anyone's trust. We don't talk about sex or partners, aside from them letting me know if they've found someone they like or have a girlfriend. With my female friends, I keep them at arm's length. They might be fun to hang around, but I know that anything I do or say is subject to being shared with family, other friends, and sometimes coworkers. With women, I often find myself on the receiving end of someone else's personal life when they tell me about their intimate experiences and make comparisons, which serves as a reminder to not share too much of my personal life with them. Story 52. My female friends are less capable of analyzing and discussing complex human interactions and emotions. They think they are better at it, but all they offer are superficial takes. When I question it and try to explore deeper, they either don't want to or aren't able to. In contrast, my male friends truly understand themselves on a fundamental level. Another observation is that my female friends tend to look for something in friendship that they actually need in a relationship, so they fade away a little when they find a significant other. Story 53. Women often objectify men in conversations with friends. It's common for some to laugh about the size of an ex's penis in public. Men don't typically do that in the same way. Story 54. Women are amazing at remembering small details. We have known each other since high school, and only once was she over at my house, and we both had cereal that day. We are in our 40s now, and she still drives by and drops off my favorite cereal. I will forever cherish her friendship. Story 55. The male friendships need way less maintenance. There is a quiet, genuine friendship and understanding that is permanent and can last for years. We can see each other every few years and feel like no time has passed. The female friendships can end without regular check-ins and constant contact. Story 56. My male friends and I have fun by teasing each other and joking around. My female friends need a lot more positivity. Story 57. Funny how guys are typecast as the gross ones always talking about sex. My conversations have always been along the lines of high five, you finally broke that dry spell, and then switch to something actually interesting. Men really are interested in just getting laid. Women seem to have a checklist of criteria to satisfy as part of the experience package. Doesn't matter, had sex is real. Story 58. Women are deeper to connect with in a less analytical way. They tend to see the good in a situation, have your back, and always give you the benefit of the doubt. They speak in broad, emotional terms using analogies and storytelling. When I spend time with women, the activity itself is just a means to an end, connecting emotionally and mentally. For instance, my women friends are up for anything, even if they dislike it, as long as it allows for bonding. When hanging out with men, the activity itself is the goal. Any emotional or mental bonding is a bonus. They prefer specific activities with less talking. Men are more analytical and likely to give objective advice. They see you as an agent relative to the issue. They'll speak in specific terms. A basic example of the difference between my men and women friends: my women friends want to chat during a movie, while my men friends just want to watch it. There seem to be some exceptions to the above. I've noticed that I can't engage with my women friends on issues that are too personal. If an activity or conversation highlights their own weaknesses or makes them feel judged, they operate in a frustratingly ambiguous mode. When giving advice, I can often tell if they are hedging based on their own situations. This often results in unclear advice, with phrases like, "It depends," or "That's different." Men don't do this as much. In friendships with men, they accept their weaknesses or hide them completely, leading to clear and objective discussions. Instead of saying, "It depends," or "That's different," they provide explanations relating to their own situations. Regarding activities, my men friends readily try new things, while my women friends are more cautious and ask many questions. My men friends offer specific comments and suggestions. Overall, my friendships with women are softer and comforting, making me feel confident. However, they are more chaotic with ill-defined boundaries. My friendships with men are less comforting but challenge me to improve on various levels. They are more directed with clearer boundaries. Story 59. But my female friends talk about men's sizes, positions, how long they lasted, and all kinds of stuff, which is really messed up. Story 60. The number of times I've heard female friends, coworkers, or even family go into graphic detail about their sex lives is pretty substantial. I've only met a handful of men in my life as crude and crass as women in terms of how descriptive they can be about extremely personal or sensitive issues. Story 61. To clarify, these people are in relationships. I notice that my guy friends can be weak-willed at times. If a woman flirts with them, they'll flirt back. If a stripper is around, they'll likely buy a dance. I notice my female friends can be treacherous. I've seen some sleep with their best friend's partner. I've seen my female friends intentionally do things like press against a boyfriend just to anger the women. I've seen women destroy other females' relationships so they could win. I've heard one friend say, "Oh, that's someone's ex. I'm going to sleep with him tonight." Meanwhile, none of my friends have ever gone for a friend's ex. None of them have gone out to ruin a friend's relationship. Story 62. I feel like I would go years without talking to my guy friends if it weren't for me taking the initiative to reach out and make plans. Meanwhile, my girlfriends all text me regularly just to say hi or share random pictures. Story 63. I stay closer to the men now that I'm older. I used to be very close to all my female friends, but it always gets messy and complicated eventually. Story 64. I think women often overestimate how much men talk with each other at all. A few times, my wife has asked what we talk about while we work. We mostly don't, except for a laugh or a good joke here and there, and the actual job. She doesn't understand how we can happily stand there in relative silence and just make stuff. Story 65. I don't think I've ever delved into my or my friends' sex lives at all. Mine isn't their business, and theirs is not mine, nor am I at all interested. It honestly seems like a bizarre thing to even talk about. Story 66. At least for me as a man, conversations with men tend to be quite shallow. Conversations with women tend to be deeper. I appreciate women for that, not in a sexual way. Story 67. I can't have female friendships because I always want to have sex with them. I stopped that when I left the army. Story 68. Aside from what you have going on, do you think counseling helped? My wife and I argue a lot, and it's really affecting our relationship. It seems like counseling is the last resort, but we are getting to that point. Is it worth it? Story 69. I'll flirt with the friends all day, every day. I keep conversations with female friends cordial and almost professional. Story 70. Talk with my friends is more straightforward, with women more in depth, I suppose. Not necessarily better than the other. Conversations are definitely less politically correct with male friends in general. but depending on the female friend, we can manage that as well. Story 71, my female friendships are deeper, but I talk to them less often, probably because the people who play games with me are more often my guy friends. Story 72, a lot of men here, myself included, are saying we actually don't discuss women amongst other men as much as you think. None of the men have stated why, so I'm asking my fellow brethren, why? Many comments are saying that, in general, men do not talk about women to other men as much as the media would have you believe. I am a man, and I agree with this. I would like to put this follow-up question out there for the men. Are we not talking about women to other men as much as it is portrayed because we genuinely do not want to? We assume other men, whether friends, colleagues, or family, will tune out or view us negatively if we do. None of our guy friends have asked, meaning you would be open to the idea if asked, but you wouldn't initiate the discussion. Story 73. I'd say, in general, the maturity, edginess, and explicitness aren't that I think there aren't women who would mind. But it feels like general etiquette to not be too brash all the time, whereas most guys I know just take that as the default setting. Story 74. I'm really only able to gossip with my female friends. Talk about their lives, families, friends, coworkers, and so on. With my male friends, we can talk about anything and everything, from gossip, politics, science, philosophy, and video games to anime and anything else. If it's not gossip, my female friends get bored quickly and make sure it becomes my problem. I find this true of most females, except for my eldest sister. Story 75. Men and women seem to compete in different ways. Male coworkers are confrontational and direct when disagreeing, while female coworkers whisper and gossip behind backs. Story 76. I'm female, but I work in civil construction, so I'm exposed to males much more nowadays. I attended a girls-only private school during high school. Besides being explicit, females tend to be catty and backstabbing more than males. They also spread rumors more often, fabricate stories, and tend to play the "it's who you know, not what you know" game. The latter is more prevalent in my current career. Males often get the job done and stick to the plan. If I have conversations with them, it's about their hobbies, family, and interests. Yes, they talk about their escapades on the weekend, especially if they're single, but never to the same explicit depth as females. There are more egotistical personalities in this group, though. They can't admit they're wrong or that someone can do their job better than them. Anyways, that's my own life experience. Story 77. My male friends want to do things together. My female friends want to get together and talk. These are generalizations for sure, but mostly it trends that way. Story 78. I used to work in healthcare and was often the only man around. Men don't go into details about our sex lives, at least not outside of high school. When the women I used to work with forgot I was there, they went into detail. Story 79. Laughing out loud. My best friend and close friend. We bond over the guys we date, sex, and our present to future goals with occasional life complaints. My male friends and I bond over having kids, the black community, telling each other to hurry and get rich, and sending memes, sometimes other deep conversations. I have more male friends than female friends because they respect my comfort zone and let me be myself. I talk about sex with my female friends more than my male friends. Honestly, I wish they'd leave me alone. Story 80. Women often overshare and violate the privacy of men while doing so. Most men are much more reserved about giving out details. Story 81. Friendships with men seem to be focused more on activities, whereas friendships with women seem to be focused more on conversations. At least that's what I've found. This is less true of mixed-sex friendships, but friendships between two women seem to have higher highs as well as lower lows than friendships between two men. Women often have other women to whom they will confide anything, and they can unload their minds without fear of judgment. Men much less frequently find themselves in such scenarios. Conversely, women also tend to go through times with other women where they are furious with each other and say awful things before finally reconciling. Men much less frequently find themselves in such scenarios. Story 82. Wow, that's crazy they talk about sex like that. My friends and I have never and would never go into details about sex. Story 83. I think another aspect of men being discreet about sex is that if women found out we violated their privacy and shared their bedroom secrets, they wouldn't want to be with us again. For example, if everyone around town approached her saying, "Mike mentioned you're open to certain activities on the first date. Want to get coffee sometime?" However, they often don't consider the privacy of men and might share stories that could tarnish his reputation. If he had an off night, now the whole town knows. That's unfair. Story 84. Male friendships don't all disappear when you have a baby. In fact, most men I know didn't really change their routines of going to the pub, seeing friends, or socializing at all. For women, you literally get cut off completely. Beyond the newborn stage, everyone comes to see you, and then you feel abandoned and never go out again. Story 85. Women can only be friends with guys if there's a sexual element to it. Men can just be friends with no motive. Story 86. My brothers and I are together, and my female friends are extremely platonic and more casual in conversation. If my brothers and I don't have anything funny or relevant to say, then we don't talk. So, I mostly don't talk to anyone because I have one female friend, and my brothers and I never have anything going on since we're all around 30, and nothing interesting happens in our lives anymore. Story 87. Why is this so true? When you have male friends, you have to ask them for all the details. With male friends, they always give surface-level answers. Story 88. Having had only female friends at a certain point in my life, it is dreadful. But my ex talked about every little detail about sex to her friends and cousins, down to every single gooch hair follicle. That was a little uncomfortable for sure. Story 89. There's some enthusiastic discussion about the women in this thread, and I have to say I'm here for it. However, I have professional relationships and long-term friendships with women in my industry. When it comes to getting things done without worrying about who caused the problem or whose fault it is, I'll choose a woman every time. Professional women aged 40 and up especially seem to have an intuitive sense of how to speak to their male colleagues in a way that reduces friction. Just my experience, of course, but this has held steady across decades in business. Story 90. I generally avoid talking about sex with my boys. It might come up if it's a funny topic like porn or something. Something like, would you choose Tifa or Aerith? Which turned into a conversation about personality, dating, and preferences. I'm on Team Tifa, but my brother really prefers Aerith since he played the Final Fantasy VII related games and went on about her cuteness and soft-spoken nature. A couple of times with girls, it was about actual sex acts like anal. I find myself discussing the actual sexual acts when I'm with my female friends, but I would never bring up the topic with my buddies. Story 91. I don't have sex with my male friends because I haven't got any. My only female friend is my wife. She consents to having sex most of the time. Story 92. One thing I've noticed is that men look for information while women look for opinions. Men will often discuss ideas or situations and offer advice backed by information, such as recommending a book or a podcast. Supported by data. Women tend to gather, discuss a topic, and then come to a general consensus, which is rarely substantiated with facts. Story 93. I'm non-binary, but I was born female and have done nothing to change my appearance. So most of the time, I think I receive treatment as a woman. I've noticed from my male friends that they talk about their bodies a lot. Not even always in a sexual way, it's like a prop for them, I guess. They are usually more straightforward with me than my female friends. Sometimes even harsh, but I don't think they're trying to be mean. They just don't cushion things the same way many of the time. The biggest difference I see is in how we experience the world. They have different experiences that I can't have or am unlikely to have, and vice versa. My female friends are more explicit when talking about sex and sexual interest or exploits. To be fair, the group of women I hang out with mostly talk about how they felt about the experience or if they enjoyed it. I had a friend hook up with a guy, and when she came back, she said the sex was crazy, but he had a bunch of needles for his diabetic cat just lying around. So, I get strange stories about men I don't know. Guys, if you get involved with someone unusual, it might be good to warn your friends who are also interested. It's just a heads up. Even when being critical, most of my female friends try to be softer in how they deliver criticism. The one exception in my life is my friend who is on the autism spectrum. She's also straightforward, but I appreciate that because I never feel misled. My female friends are more complimentary. They're always complimenting me, each other, or some random person. I've heard that men don't do this because they don't want to be seen as gay or sexually aggressive. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but it's just what I've heard. I see a lot of fear surrounding men from my female friends. I don't see that same fear reversed in my male friends. I think that probably goes back to how we experience the world. Overall, I don't think there are many differences and certainly none that make us incompatible as friends. Any incompatibility is based on individual behavior. Story 94. I don't have female friends, only female colleagues, perhaps. I personally find it odd if a guy has females that he considers friends to share his male stuff. I find that even gay men are more understanding than women when it comes to male issues, so it's easier to talk to them than women. Men are diverse these days. There are the alpha males, also known as chads, who will only tolerate manly things, and then there are the sensitive guys who are willing to talk about emotions and feelings. I believe that sensitive guys are the best. They are less judgmental and always willing to listen and be your friend regardless of your problems. Story 95. I'm bisexual but tired of how both men and women talk about sex online. They're all trying to be promiscuous performers and not just be individuals anymore. There used to be more diversity with women being softer and more communicative. Now most are as inappropriate as men. Story 96. Male friendships. I can talk to them about anything. I can discuss everything going on in my mind. Zero judgment. Female friendships. Extremely surface-level talks. I never tell them what's actually going on in my mind. We never have anything interesting to talk about. I feel like I am just trying to entertain them. They don't ever give me any feelings of going in-depth on any topics. I also hate the feeling that they will judge me no matter what I say. That's why there's never any depth in what we talk about. I always worry that they think I have any other intentions beyond just friendship. I only want to be friends with you. God damn it. I don't want anything else. But I can't just tell them that, or can I? So stupid. Story 97. Women are way more open about their sex lives. Also, this might be just a personal observation, but I can relax and be more goofy around female friends than male friends. Story 98. I talk about gaming and other general interests with male friends, but with female friends, it's usually about drama. From dating to friends to colleagues, there's always drama around it. Story 99. Most women aren't true friends when you really need support, unlike guys who are often more supportive. Story 100. The probability of a male friend betraying you is higher than the probability of a female friend doing so. Story 101. In general, males are more logical than females. Regarding sex, male friends don't talk about it much. Female friends don't talk about it a lot if there is a guy they don't know well. My best male and female friends talk about sex without any problem. Story 102. I don't believe in female friendships. I have my wife and that's it. I don't have any female friends. It's all nonsense. I only hang out with my brothers, no women. You're trying to tell me you can be friends with a very attractive woman and have no sexual thoughts? Ever? And what exactly are you going to talk about? Her boyfriend? How she had an argument with Claire? Or how Sarah creates problems for her at work? It makes no sense. Men and women are fundamentally different. Unless you are gay or a highly spiritual man who is above sexual urges, being friends with a woman in its pure form is not possible. You can be good acquaintances or co-workers, but not friends. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.